mechanics found in our body. What is the difference between man and a plant? We all are having same type of characteristic, but there is a big difference between plant and man. Because of only the difference is only movement. Being a man or animal, we are able to move, whereas the plant cannot move. And that's why we have achieved a lot of progress in a human world, but plant cannot. They were where they are, they were. So how we are able to move, and how can we move effectively? How can we use this physical principle to move our body in a controlled manner with energy efficient manner? Clear? We will discuss some basic component of movement. First and most important is liver. Mechanics found in our body. We all know human being a simple machine, and that machine starts from the formation of liver. Our whole body move on the principle of liver. How it can, we will discuss in the whole chapter. Livers. Human moves through a system of liver. What is liver? Liver is a rigid bar that turns about an axis of rotation or a fulcrum. Fulcrum means, suppose if you are rotating like this, so this will act as a axis, and any bar, a rigid bar, can move over an axis. It is also known as fulcrum. Axis, point of rotation about which liver moves. We all know motion is two types, either linear motion or angular motion. So angular motion cannot take place without an axis. Any angular motion, it requires an axis to move. Livers cannot be changed, but they can be utilized more efficiently, because we are going to train a person for their physical activities, for their effective movement, for their athletic training. So we should have a complete comprehension of liver, how we can use this liver principle for a training of athlete as well as sports personnel, and how we can add in their health by using this principle effectively. Liver rotate about an axis as a result of force, also known as effort, being applied to cause its movement against a resistance or weight. It means that by using effective principle of liver, we can move any resistance, any weight with a less effort. Sometimes we can apply more effort to lift a smaller weight. It is depending on which type of leverage you are going to use. In the body, bones represent the bar, joints are the axis, and muscle contract to apply forces. Weight could be external or internal. External weight, if you are putting something from outside, is your external weight, external load. And our body weight is known as internal load. And by using the liver principle, we can effectively carry those weight properly. Livers. Resistance can vary from maximal to minimal. Resistance can vary from maximal to minimal. This is the basic principle of muscle training. When you are going for any muscle strength, you can only add some weight, and putting more load over the muscle, you can strengthen muscle up to any extent. How it is possible? By using the principle of liver. We will discuss later how we can add more weight, or sometimes suppose we are going to train an athlete and we don't have more weight in our lab. Suppose a muscle requires 5 kg weight for its training, but in our lab we have only 1 kg. But we can give a load of 5 kg by using only 1 kg weight, by using the principle of liver. All liver systems have each of these 3 components in one of 3 possible arrangements. We are going to discuss types of liver. 3 points determine types of liver and for which kind of motion is the best suited. First, axis, fulcrum, the point of rotation, force and resistance. By altering the position of axis, resistance and effort, we can make different types of liver, and those liver have different advantages and disadvantages. Livers. First class liver, axis between force and resistance. Second class liver, resistance between axis and force. Third class liver, force between axis and resistance. How can you remember this word? Either you remember R, A-R-E-R is the English word. In first class liver, axis will be in between. In second class liver, resistance or weight will be in between. And in third class liver, effort will be in between. You can remember the same word by the other misnomer, FEW, few. F means fulcrum in first class lever, fulcrum will be in between, FWE. In second class lever, weight will be in between, and in third class lever, your resistance effort will be in between. Now come to how we get these advantages from using principle of lever. First we will discuss about first class lever. In first class lever, we all know axis is in between. How we can use the lever first principle of first class lever in our daily life or athlete training? When we are going to train a personal or athlete for balance training or equilibrium training, we should use the principle of first class lever by putting external load and internal load. It means effort and weight. If both are working at exact point, the distance from both should be equal to axis. We will maintain balance training. And most of the athletic activity require balance. So, by using this first class lever principle, we can train them for balance. In second class lever, your weight is in between. Your weight is in between. It means at one end there will be a fulcrum and other end there will be effort. By using this type of lever, we can perform a greater work, heavy work by applying less effort. We will show you in the example how we can lift a heavy weight by applying less effort by using principle of second class lever. Third is your effort arm is in between this arrangement. First class lever, we will discuss one by one. Produce balance moment when axis is midway between force and resistance. I have told you for equilibrium, if your axis is exactly between the effort arm and weight arm, there will be a controlled equilibrium like our body. When we are standing, we are not unstable, we are completely stable, because our center of gravity lies somewhere in the body near to S2, just anterior to S2. Groundation force are acting over us, and body muscle and body alignment is acting against that. And both forces are equal. Groundation forces and body forces, both are equal. That's why we are stable. It means ground and body, where body meet the ground, work as a axis. One end is we are getting manual force or body force, other end groundation force, and we are in complete equilibrium. But when we start walking or running, the equilibrium disturbed, because sometimes we are flexing our legs, sometimes flexing the body, so that equilibrium disturbed and we become unbalanced. That time the second lever principle used, we will discuss later. See the example. First is seesaw. Axis is exactly in between the both effort arm and fulcrum. How can we change axis? How can we change the distance from axis? Should be in between. It could be anywhere. Suppose this is a bar. If you put axis here or here or here, the condition of first class lever is resistance arm and effort arm should be at both ends, and axis should be in. By changing the position of axis, it should be in between, but by closing the axis to effort arm or by closing the axis to weight, we can get the different types of advantages, like produce speed and range of motion when axis is close to force, like triceps in elbow extension. You all know about triceps muscle. This is a triceps muscle inserted at the olecranon process. Triceps muscle is inserted at the olecranon process. And elbow joint, your elbow joint is distal to olecranon process. Clear? So at one end there is effort, this is the weight, whole forearm is weight, and axis is elbow joint. When you are going to train any person for elbow extension, it means you are using triceps is producing effort, your arm is going against gravity, so it will act as a weight, and elbow joint act as a fulcrum. So we can go for any range, full range of motion. So when your axis is nearer to effort. When axis is nearer to effort, you will get more range as well as more speed. Remember, when you are using first class lever and axis is nearer to effort, axis should be in between. But if it is nearer to your effort, you will get advantage of speed as well as range of motion. So all athletic activities which need more range of motion as well as speed, you can use this type of arrangement. So you can get more speed in that athlete as well as you can get more range of motion. Second, produce force motion when axis is close to resistance. When axis is close to effort, you will get more speed and more range. But if axis is close to resistance, you will get more force, more power. Like when you are going to lift something, see, third example, by putting your resistance arm closer to axis, by applying a manual little effort, you can lift the heavy person, obese person. Are you getting? First class levers. Head balance. Now I am giving some example from own body. How body has this types of lever, first class lever. Head balance on neck in flexing and extending. We all know this is the occiput. This is occiput, and where occiput made with the vertebral column is axis. And this joint is known as atlanto-occipital joint. Atlanto-occipital joint, and it can move. When you see there is a movement, nodding. See, it is nodding movement is over the first atlanto-occipital joint. We are using principle of lever, first class lever. See, that atlanto-occipital joint act as an axis. Your paravertebral muscle which are going parallel to vertebrae is known as paravertebral muscle, and body weight of head. Head resistance or weight at one end, fulcrum is in between, and your muscle are at the other end. They are forming a first class lever. First class lever. Elbow extension in triceps, applying force to olecranon. In extending the non-supported forearm at elbow. I have discussed it before also, how we can use first class lever. By using proper first class, by arranging first class lever, we can get three things. First thing, we can train any personnel for balance training, equilibrium training, when we will put your axis in between. Second thing, if we want more speed and more range of motion, we should put axis closer to the effort. Third thing we have discussed, when we want to lift any heavy thing from a smaller effort, we should put your axis nearer to weight. Clear? First class lever. Force is applied where muscle insert in the bone, not in a belly of muscle. Suppose someone can say, suppose this is the biceps muscle. The main function of biceps is flexion of elbow. So you can say this is biceps, but it is example of third class lever. Your biceps is inserted here over the radial tubercle, So when you are going to flex your elbow, someone can say your biceps is this. So this is the effort, and this is the fulcrum, and this is the weight. So it should be a first class lever. But muscle cannot exert force by its own. Muscle can exert force by attaching its tendon over the bone. When muscle contract, it drag the tendon, and when tendon contract, it drag the bone. So we will consider that effort will be that which is just going to attach with the moving part. So tendon are going to attach with the bone, and tendons are the extension of muscle. So we will consider where that tendon is inserted is the effort point, where the joint is moving is the axis, and the weight which is carried by that procedure is known as resistance. Now come to second class lever. Produce force movement since a large resistance can be moved by a relatively small force. As we have seen in first class lever, we can lift some heavy weight by applying minimal effort when we are putting your axis nearer to weight. It means weight arm is closer, nearer. Now, the second class lever produces force movement since a large resistance can be moved by a relatively small force. As you can see in the example, the person is carrying heavy weight, but he don't need to apply more force. He can move anything. Suppose you are lifting something. Suppose if I want to lift this heavy podium, just I will put my leg down and push here, and it can get up. I am applying very minimal force, but I am lifting a heavy object. So when you are keeping your resistance is in between the axis and effort, you will get a mechanical advantage. You can lift a heavy weight by applying a minimum effort. All the sports which are played by a long stick, like hockey, like suppose you are playing cricket, when you need to plate the ball, you are going flexion and you are going with short arm. But when you are going for six, your full arm is open, your bat is open, and you are using long arm. So what is the fulcrum? This is fulcrum, and this is the effort. See here, produce force movement since a large resistance can be moved by a relatively small force. Example is wheelbarrow, nutcracker, loosening a nut and raising the body up to the toes. In first example, you can see resistance is in between the axis and fulcrum, and person is carrying a high load with a minimal effort. In second, you are trying to crack a neck. You may see in beetles, we eat beetles, we crack the nut, minimal effort, minimal. If you are trying to crack nut by your own finger, you can never crack. But if you keep that nut within a machine or a simple lever, even with a minimal effort, you can crack. So what is the resistance? You are going to crack the nut. Nut will offer resistance, and the axis is at one end and fulcrum is at one end. Clear? So because you can see in the figure, resistance and axis are very much closer. Resistance and axis are very much closer. As we have seen in first class lever, when resistance is nearer to your axis, you need less effort to perform a bigger or heavy work. Example from body of second class lever, raising a toe. When you are going to raise a toe, it is the first MTP joint, metatarsophalangeal joint. Metatarsophalangeal joint. You can stand on your toe. Clear? So your toe will act as a axis. Your toe will act as a axis, and your calf muscle, gastrocnemius and soleus muscle, it will exert pressure over the calcaneum. Calcaneum is the bone which form heel. Calcaneum is the bone which form your heel, and that gastrocnemius and soleus muscles are inserted. The tendon of this muscle is inserted over the calcaneum. You can see the bigger bone which form the heel, and when you are going to stand on your toes, it can apply force over calcaneum, and calcaneum will go up and your body will go down. So your whole body weight, 60 kg, 70 kg, whole body weight is carried by a smaller toes by using the principle of second class lever. Plantar flexion of foot to raise the body up on the toes, where ball of the foot serve as the axis. As plantar flexor, apply force to calcaneus to lift the resistance of body at tibial articulation right with the foot. Relatively few second class levers in body. It is given only in books. But we all know there are two types of muscle work, concentric muscle work and eccentric muscle work. So we can give many examples from body. We have a number of second class levers in the body. Suppose if you are lifting your shoulder up, clear? This is your deltoid muscle. It is inserted over the radial groove, and when you are lifting your shoulder, this will act as a effort. This is fulcrum and this is weight. Effort is in between, it means it is a third class lever. Effort is in between, it means it is a third class lever. But when you are having a high load mean, which is, I have told you before, there are two types of forces, internal forces and external forces. And for equilibrium, both should be equal. When you need balance, external forces and internal forces both should be equal. But if external forces are more than internal forces, if external forces are more than internal forces, gravity will pull you. Same, I'm saying this is the example of third class lever, but when you are having some load which is bringing you down, suppose you have taken 5 kg weight here and you are coming down, so you will not feel like this. Your hand cannot feel like this. Your hand come like this. It means this is the example of second class lever. See, here gravity is pulling you down. It means gravity is acting as an effort. Gravity is trying to bring your hand down. So it will be counted as effort. What is effort? Which is doing work. Is effort. And what work is done is work, resistance. And that axis where both processes are taking place are axis. See here, I am saying when you are going against gravity, your deltoid is acting as an effort, so it will be example of third class lever. But when you are having some high load in your hand and your muscle is not able to hold it in a static posture, it will come down. So gravity will work as a effort, and this will act as a resistance. Your deltoid muscle will act as a resistance. It will resist your arm to go down. It will try to hold. Sometime it can, sometime it cannot. But it will try to hold your muscle, hold your arm down. This is the effort by gravity. This is resistance by deltoid, and this is the axis. This is also example of second class lever. So the books are saying there are few examples in our body about second class lever, but I can give you many examples in our body which is working on the principle of second class lever. See, suppose if you are going to sit on chair. If you are going to sit on chair, it means gravity is applying effort. Gravity is applying effort to your body. Gravity is pulling you down. And your hams muscle and quadriceps, your quadriceps muscle is giving you controlled motion. It means eccentric contraction. I have told you there are two types of muscle contraction, concentric and eccentric contraction. When you are going to sit over chair, your quadriceps is giving you support to sit on chair properly, otherwise you will fall down. You are not jumping or falling on the chair. You are sitting in a controlled manner, so gravity is pulling you, so gravity will be effort. Your knee joint will work as a axis, and your quadriceps. You can see your quadriceps is inserted here. This is the distal to knee joint. Quadriceps is here. You can see it is resistance, because quadriceps is resisting the effort of gravity. Gravity is pulling you down and your quadriceps is resisting you to go down. So in this motion, when you are going against gravity, your quadriceps will work as a resistance, whereas gravity will work as a effort and your knee joint will work as a axis. This is again example of second class lever. So we have a number of examples. All the eccentric contractions, all the eccentric work in our body are the example of second class lever. Now come to third class lever. What is the advantage of using third class lever? Produce speed and range of motion. Produce speed and range of motion. As we have seen, when we keep axis closer to effort, we have seen in first class lever, when we keep axis closer to effort, we can get mechanical advantage of having speed as well as, it means if your effort arm is shorter, Third class lever can produce speed and range of movement, most common in human body, require a great deal of force to move even a small resistance. It means require a great deal of force. You can see your biceps muscle, very bulky muscle. You can feel God has given you biceps, very bulky muscle, to lift only forearm. To lift a forearm. It means the smaller work is done by a heavy or more muscle. So because this movement is performed by the principle of third class lever. What is the advantage of using third class lever? More effort is required to perform a smaller work, whereas in second class lever, less effort is required to perform a heavy work. Most common in human body, require great deal of force to move even a small distance. Example are paddling a boat. You can see in the diagram, a person is paddling a boat from where he will apply this is actually a fulcrum, because anything, one will go this side, other will go this side. So this is the effort, this is the fulcrum, and this is the effort axis, this is the axis. You are applying moment here, effort fulcrum is here, and resistance is down. Resistance will be offered by your water. So next, third class lever, biceps brachii in elbow flexion. Using the elbow joint as the axis, the biceps brachii apply force at its insertion on radial tuberosity to rotate forearm, which is center of gravity, serving as a point of resistance application. As I have told you, in third class lever, more effort is required to perform smaller work. How these, I have discussed three levers: first class lever, second class lever, third class lever. Now I will discuss why less effort is required in second class lever to perform more work, and why more effort is required to perform lighter work in third class lever. What is the mechanism behind that? We will discuss in next slide. Third class lever, brachialis, true third class leverage, pulls on the ulna just below elbow. Pull is direct and true since ulna contact rotate. Biceps brachii supinators forearm at its plexus, so its third class leverage applies to flexion. Biceps brachii and brachialis both are elbow flexor. Both are elbow flexor, originate from the mid shaft of humerus. Brachialis originate from mid shaft of humerus and inserted somewhere in the elbow. And we can flex our elbow in two patterns. One is in anatomical position, other is like this. There is one more example from second class lever. Movement of elbow flexion in mid prone position. This is the mid prone position. Supine position, prone position, and this position is mid prone position. When you are going to flex your elbow in mid prone position, this is the example of second class lever. When you are going to flex your elbow in supine position, this is the example of third class lever. How? See, this movement is performed by brachioradialis. This movement is performed by brachioradialis. Brachioradialis is inserted just over the styloid process of radius. It means effort is here, effort is here, and this is the whole weight. Weight is in between, and this is the fulcrum. So weight is in between the effort and fulcrum. So this is the also example of second class lever, as well as brachialis contraction, as well as biceps contraction for movement of elbow flexion. This is the example of third class lever. Factor in use of anatomical lever. Now we will discuss what is the mechanism behind the mechanical advantage or disadvantage for first, second and third class lever. How second class lever perform more work with less effort, how third class lever perform less work with more effort. Anatomical leverage system can be used to gain a mechanical advantage, improve simple or complex physical movements. Some habitually use human lever properly, some develop habit of improperly use of human lever. Clear? Being a sport trainer, it is your duty. How can you use all these principles? You can use for advantage, you can use for disadvantage. We all are walking in wrong posture. It means we are improperly using our leverage system. Clear? And if you are training a personal in athletic ground, you are properly using the principle of leverage system. All sport personnel has coach, and it is the only coach who can guide them how to do this, when do you do this, all these things. Torque and length of lever arm. Now we are going to discuss the mechanism, how these things are possible. Torque, movement of force, the turning effect of an eccentric force. What is torque? What is torque? Torque is the force into length. Torque is the force into length. Force is not, when we are talking about our body movement, body is not moving only because of force. Body is moving, or we are able to move our body part only because of torque. Torque means force into length. Suppose if you are lifting something from here, you can apply less force. But if you are pulling something from here, you can apply more force. Can you feel sometime when you are pulling like this? You need less force. You are feeling less force. but you are pulling someone from here, you are feeling more force. It is because of torque. Torque means application of force at a particular length. Next is eccentric force, for applied in a direction not in line with the center of rotation of an object with a fixed axis. What is eccentric force? Any force which is going away from center of rotation. Any force which is applied away from the center of rotation. Suppose this is your center of rotation, and if your biceps is coming toward this side, it is a concentric force. But if you are keeping some high load and your elbow is going like this movement is also performed by your biceps, not by triceps. We have studied in anatomy, the function of biceps is elbow flexion, whereas the function of triceps is elbow extension. But when you are extending your elbow in this position, it means you are not using your triceps. Even in this movement, your biceps is going to use. How? It is going to use eccentrically. It is going to control the gravity effort by eccentric contraction. So any movement, any contraction which is going away from the center of rotation is known as eccentric contraction. So in this movement, biceps is lengthening to control the elbow extension. So this is known as eccentric contraction of biceps. In object without a fixed axis, it is applied force that is not in line with object center of gravity. They are talking about that moment we don't have any axis. For rotation to occur, an eccentric force must be applied. For rotation to occur, an eccentric force must be applied. Rotation means angular movement. Angular movement, when you want any angular movement, there should be eccentric force. How? Suppose we are going to flex our elbow. It means flexing the elbow is because we all feel flexing the elbow is because of contraction, concentric contraction of biceps. But any movement is not possible without two muscles. One is agonist, other is antagonist. When you are going to flex your elbow, your biceps will work as an agonist. They will go for the eccentric contraction, but other group is going for eccentric. Suppose if someone is controlled by everyone, if you move anything, suppose I am holding him and I am dragging him, so he can go anywhere. But if someone is holding him from back, and if I drag him and he will release, so he will come in a straight line. So for a quality of movement, there should be agonist and antagonist coordination. When agonists contract, antagonists should relax. When agonists are going for concentric, antagonists should go for eccentric for a control motion. Torque and length of lever arm. In humans, a contracting muscle applies an eccentric force to bone upon which it attaches and causes the bone to rotate about an axis at joint. Eccentric force and eccentric contraction. Eccentric force and eccentric contraction both are different things. Eccentric contraction means muscle is going away from its center of origin and insertion. Suppose biceps is originated from here and inserted here. If it is shortening, we are saying concentric contraction. When it is lengthening, we are saying eccentric contraction. But eccentric force and concentric force in relation to bone is totally different. Suppose when your bone is coming towards this side, it means the bone is distal, but it is coming proximal. Bone upon which is attached and cause bone to rotate about an axis. Rotation is this side. When you see the whole bone, this is the elbow. When this head is coming centrally, this will go. The rotation will be eccentrically. Getting? When your bone or bar is coming towards center, your joint or axis will move towards or away from the center. This is the eccentric force, eccentric type of movement. Amount of torque is determined by multiplying amount of force. I have told you what is torque. Torque equal to force into length. That's why we can apply different type of forces, different amount of forces at different length. Torque and length of lever arm. Force arm or effort arm. Effort arm is perpendicular distance between location of force, application of axis. How can we use this lever principle in our application, we can draw a body diagram and we can calculate how much force over that joint, over that muscle, and by calculating the force, we can find out the balance, we can find out the how much force is required. When you are going to be a trainer, you can calculate, suppose a person is a weightlifter, he need to lift, if he need to lift 70 kg weight, it means external load is 70 kg plus minus your arm weight, because when you are lifting something along with that 70 kg, you are lifting your arm weight also. So by calculating the external load and internal load, and when we will go for concentric contraction, there are three types of movement. One is eccentric, concentric and isometric. When external load will be equal to internal load, external load will be equal to internal load, both are equal, there will be isometric contraction, mean there will be change in muscle tone but no change in length. But if your external load is more than internal load, you cannot lift the thing. And you are going to train an athlete who is a weightlifter, so you should train his muscle that can produce a torque more than that weight. So we will calculate the force required for that particular muscle according to the need of his sports. Then we can train him accordingly by calculating the required force with the using Newton's law as well as lever principle. How can we calculate? We will discuss later. Force arm, perpendicular distance between location of force, application of SQ. Suppose if you are going to calculate the force arm of the biceps, so we cannot measure from here to here. We will not measure the length of force arm. I am saying when you are going for elbow flexion, your biceps is working as a force arm. So being an expert, when you are going to measure the force arm length, you should not measure from origin to insertion. You should see the moment where you are putting force. If you are putting force here, so this will be the distance from elbow, perpendicular distance from axis of rotation to the insertion of that particular muscle. So force arm will be very minimal from here to here. This is the effort arm. Clear? Also known as moment arm. Shortest distance from axis of rotation to line of action of force. We will measure the shortest distance. Shortest mean, see the angle, see the distance between joint line, dry. Suppose this, I am having this in this, so this is a dry line from vertical line from here and vertical line from here. Then we will calculate the distance. This is the distance of effort arm. Shortest perpendicular distance between insertion of muscle and axis is known as effort arm. The greater distance of force arm, the more torque produced by force. We all know force into length is known as torque. If we want to increase torque, either we increase force or we increase length. So this principle can be effectively used in training. Sometime if we don't have high amount of loads, what can we do? We can increase force arm. We can increase the length of loading. The greater the distance of force arm, the more torque produced by force. T equal to F into L. Either you increase F or you increase L. F may be fixed because you cannot increase person force generating capacity. You cannot increase person's force generating capacity immediately. But being a trainer, you can change the length of force. Length of force. So by changing the length of force, you can increase torque. So the person can produce more torque with the same force by increasing the length of effort arm. As I have told you, when you want to plate the ball, you should go for a smaller effort arm. When you are going to 6, you are using. When you are going to a linear movement from hockey, you should full arm is open and full stick is open and you are applying. So your effort arm is more than your weight arm. Torque and length of lever arm. Torque and length of lever arm. Often we purposely increases force arm length in order to increase torque so that we cannot more easily move a relatively large distance, increasing our leverage. Often we purposely increase force arm length in order to increase torque. I have told you, when you want, what is torque? Torque means ultimate force. Ultimate force produced by your muscle is torque. How can we increase? By increasing the length of effort arm. So we can more easily move a relatively large resistance by applying more torque. I have told you, a person of 60 kg weight is having this amount of biceps. If we want more work for him, we can increase the length of arm, so he can perform more work with the same amount of force or muscle. Resistance arm, distance between axis and the point of resistance application. What does axis? Is a bit or anywhere. Distance of weight from axis is known as weight arm. Distance of effort from axis is known as effort arm. And by manipulating weight arm and effort arm, we can get different types of advantage as needed in training the athlete person. Torque and length of lever arm. Torque and length of lever. Inverse relationship between length of two lever arm, between force and force arm, and between resistance and resistance arm. Suppose we are saying we are making a lever by using only three axis, weight and effort. If you are trying to increase effort arm, your weight arm will be shortened. Clear? Same as if you want to increase weight arm, your effort arm will be shortened. Getting? So there is an inverse relationship between these two arms. We cannot increase both. If we want to increase effort arm, we have to shorten weight arm. If we want to increase weight arm, we have to shorten effort arm. There is an inverse relationship between weight arm and effort arm. The longer the force arm, the less force required to move the lever if the resistance arm remain constant. The longer the force arm, the less force required. T is, suppose put T constant, torque, tau, it is known tau, put tau constant. If you need less effort, less torque is constant. If you are increasing the L, ultimately F will be decreased. If you are putting T constant and increasing L, your F will be decreased. Or it means less force is required to perform a particular movement. How can you use this lever principle in training? Suppose some of your athlete is injured. Some of your athlete is injured and you have treated him. After getting recovery, he is not having full power. But if you will not train him, or there is no training for him, there will be deconditioning and person will be useless. So it is your duty, you have to train him continuously but you should not train him at maximal intensity, because if you again train him maximal intensity, he has weaker muscle, weaker structure, he can get injury again. So how can you train him? You cannot keep him on rest and you cannot go for maximal training. But you want he should be familiar with the sport, he should have daily practice. So by increasing the length arm, keeping the torque constant, we can decrease the force required. Okay, so he is using less force but having same effect and getting escape from injury. Next is shortening the resistance arm, allow a greater resistance to be moved if force and force arm remain constant. Shortening the resistance arm, allow a greater resistance to be moved in force and force arm remain constant. When you are going for strength training, you can use principle of lever 2. By putting resistance arm longer, by putting resistance arm longer, you can get more training for that particular muscle. So when we want strength training for athlete, we will use principle of second class lever. When we want a training of an injured person who cannot produce more force, if he will produce more force, he can get injured. So we can increase the length arm, so we will maintain the torque equal, constant. So ultimately his force will be decreased. Torque and length of lever arm. Proportional relationship between force component and resistance component. Greater resistance or resistance arm require a greater force or longer force arm. Greater resistance or resistance arm require greater force, or if you are keeping your resistance arm longer, you need more force generation. And when you need more force generation, when you want muscle strengthening, when you contract muscle by its full capacity, then there will be maximum number of motor unit recruitment and maximal hypertrophy takes place. We all know our body is made up, muscle is made up of a GAGs protein which have a average lifespan of 2 to 7 days. Within 2 to 7 days, that muscle fiber or basic building block of muscle GAGs died. And in case of muscle, they will only form when you will use the muscle. And muscle are the highly vascularized tissues. Highly vascularized means they are getting sufficient amount of blood. That's why they are getting sufficient nutrition, oxygen, and etc. etc. So we can train a muscle up to any extent. We can train muscle up to any extent. And the more you use, the more you get. The more you use, the more you get. You may also aware about the pattern of synchronization. Synchronous motion, we have different type of muscle fiber, type 1 fiber, type 2A fiber, type 2B fiber. And when we do any movement, initially we recruit type 1 fiber. And when you are doing some harder work, type 2B, type 2A, type 2B. So this is a synchronous pattern. Initially weaker when is work, when he is failing, then moderate one work, and when he is feeling, then stronger work. Depending on the nature of job, your recruitment will be assigned. And when you are, we also know that the more you recruit, the more they form. For strength training, we need to recruit more amount of type 2B fiber. If we perform any activity at lower level, it will never recruit our type 2B fiber. So you are giving a person light weight exercises, he will never improve his strength. He can improve only his endurance. So we can differentiate which sports require endurance and which sports require strength. And by using leverage principle, we can train individual person for a specific sport. Which sport require, suppose you are training a marathon runner, so you need to train him for endurance. And if you are preparing a team for 1 day or 2020, you need more strength. But if you are preparing a person for 5-day test, the person needs more endurance. Same as we have some anti-gravity muscle in the body which require more strength. We have some muscle which need to perform strength movement, they need more strength. So by using this principle, we can train them accordingly. And by using proper effective leverage with a limited amount of resources, we can train anyone with a effective manner. Greater force arm allow a greater amount of resistance to be moved or a longer resistance arm to be used. I have told you, when you want to lift heavy weight, you should increase the arm, lever arm, and torque and length of lever arm. Proportional relationship between force component and resistance component. If either of resistance component increase, the muscle will be an increase in one or both of force component. If either of resistance component increases, there must be an increase in one or both of force component. It means, I have discussed it before also, when your referred resistance arm is longer, you need more force to apply to perform any movement. Even slight variation in the location of force and resistance are important in determining the effect of force the muscle. I have told you, when you have gone through physiology, there is all or none law. Any stimulus requires sufficient amount of threshold. Any response requires a sufficient amount of threshold. Like if you want 50 marks to get pass out of 100, even if 49, you are fail. Until unless you will not achieve 50 marks, you are declared fail. Same as if any muscle or any structure need some specific amount of threshold to get activated, it wants that. If you apply some fraction of percentage less than that, it will not do that movement. Same as, suppose if you want balance, you are putting 1 kg one side and 9.9 kg one side. The one is, this will be down. There will be no balance. It will be imbalance. And what is imbalance is either because of 10 kg and 1 kg or because of 950 and 1 kg. Both will come as a imbalance. So when we can variate minimal variation can have a greater effect. You can feel when you are measuring something, adding 50 gram only is getting balance, equilibrium. But when you are removing 50 gram, it can lead a great imbalance. One balance is totally down, one is totally up. Torque and length of lever arm. See the example. Distance of force from axis is known as forearm resistance arm. If the force arm and resistance arm are equal in length, a force equal to resistance is required to balance it. So for all balance training, we will try to keep the axis exactly in between. As the force arm becomes longer, a decreased amount of force is required to move a relatively larger distance. As the force arm becomes shorter, an increased amount of force is required. We have already discussed before. Now, how can we calculate? I have told you for training a specific individual, first we should calculate how much force he required more or how much effort is required to perform that specific activity. Until unless we don't calculate, we cannot train him. Before any training, we need first assessment. What is the level of our athlete and how much he is needed. Either he is below the criteria or he is above the criteria. So according to that, first we will make our plan and we will train him. So how can we, these tools, these formulas can be helpful in getting the status, present status of athlete, and by getting complete status, we can plan our management in effective manner. Suppose we are getting example, torque and length of lever arm, example biceps brachii, F into FA, force into force arm equal to resistance into resistance arm, equilibrium, force into force arm, F into 0.1 meter equal to 45 Newton into 25. Okay, suppose this is the insertion of 0.1 is the insertion of biceps brachii from your elbow joint. The distance of elbow to insertion is 0.1 meter. We are going to calculate force. Okay. Suppose 45 Newton is required for a specific activity. 45 Newton of force is required. Like you are going to train an athlete and you know the amount of weight, how much weight he need to lift. Getting? You have a complete data from, you can get from internet ki who is the weightlifting champion, because he is able to lift this amount of weight. That weight will act as your landmark. We have to train that individual for lifting this amount of weight. So weight is constant and resistance arm mean distance from your resistance to fulcrum. We have everything. Now we are going to calculate how much force is required. How much force is required in the biceps, so we can train that specific individual to lift that amount of weight, that is 45 Newton. This is the 2.5 Newton meter is required. To lift the 45 Newton weight by using third class lever, 2.5 Newton meter force is required to lift a 45 Newton weight. You can see it is more than double because we are using third class lever. How can we decrease this force? How can we decrease the force? Increase insertion by 0.5 meter. Increase insertion by 0.5 meter. Suppose biceps was inserted here, we can insert biceps here. F into 1.5 equal to same. F is decreases around 50. Clear? There are number of surgeries going on nowadays and athletes are going for those surgeries. Even you know patella. Nowadays there is fashion. Who is long runner, they are removing their patella and they can run faster because patella act as a pulley. Patella act as a pulley, it is giving you balance as well as some mechanical advantage. But for speed, it is not. It is good for balance but not for speed. So some athletes remove their patella for fast running. So even doctors can help in changing the location, changing the distance or insertion of one muscle by other side. It can increase or decrease the effort and weight arm. So slight increase in effort or resistance arm, we can get the mechanical advantage. Clear? Same as this is the surgical procedure, but being a sport trainer, how we can help? How can we help? We all facing different types of athlete we are treating everyday life, and all are having injuries and healing. But we all know muscle healing is never 100%. It is always by 80%. And pure muscle is made up of collagen fiber. They have property of viscoelasticity. It means complete extensibility, contraction and relaxation. But it is the property of original muscle, which is made up of collagen fiber. But after injury, after repetitive trauma, the muscle which is teared and healed by fiber tissues, there is adhesion, fibrosis, shortening. Clear? And because of shortening, if the length arm was anatomically, the length arm is looking 1. Anatomically, your lever arm is looking 0.1 meter. But if a person has shortened muscle, clear? From above side, from up, you are seeing okay, this is the distance, insertion is this, and axis is this, and this is the distance of 0.1 meter. Clear? But if the person has shortened muscle, and because of shortening, physiologically the exact length lever arm will be maybe 0.8, 0.7, because of functional shortening of that muscle. So if we assess athlete properly, we can stretch, achieve his full flexibility. So by achieving the normal length of muscle, we can increase the force arm as well as get mechanical advantage. Back. See in the other example, RA equal to 0.25 meter. 0.25 meter. You can calculate by your own. You put the value of RA. Here it was 0.25, 25. See the distance. Next. Example, bicep break, F into FRA. Here we have decreased the RA. Here in this example, we have decreased the resistance arm by 0.05. By decreasing the resistance arm by 0.05, we are getting advantage. Either you increase the effort arm or you decrease the weight arm. Clear? Because both are, if you increase one, other will automatically decrease. Both are inversely proportional. So we are not surgeon, we cannot go for surgical removal of insertion from one place to other place, but being a sports trainer, being a physical trainer, we can decrease the resistance arm effectively by changing the length of weight, as well as by stretching the muscle, we can achieve the normal physiological length of effort arm. Torque and length of lever arm. This is a same example. Decrease resistance arm by 1 Newton. We are discussing everything. We are giving you example by, first I have given you increasing the length effort arm. Second example I have given you by decreasing the resistance arm. Third I have given by decreasing the force by 1 Newton only. By 1 Newton only. When you can see, you can compare. When we increase the effort arm, we have got around 50 newtons of mechanical, it means around half of the mechanical advantage. When we decrease the resistance arm, we got around 10 to 15 newton in that case. And when we are decreasing 1 newton, we are getting just 2.5 newton meter decrease. So it means you should try to maximally work on effort arm. And being a physical trainer, you can effectively increase effort arm by proper stretching maneuver, positioning, adding something, and decrease the weight arm by decreasing the distance of load from the axis.